Friends and fans of heavy metal, it's another episode of the Nuclear Podblast. My name is Andrew, Drucifer, whatever. It's been a few months, so I'm happy to be back with you, bringing you another episode of the Podblast. Another 3 interviews this time around. We'll speak with Thomas Vikstrom from Therion fame. Their latest album came out back in January, so we'll speak to Thomas later on in the program. Also recently had a great conversation with Olof Wickstrand from Enforcer. Yes, Sweden's Enforcer, who just put out their second live record via Nuclear Blast. And also on this episode, we welcome back the legendary Michael Schenker. The new MSG record, Immortal, also came out a few months ago, and we got a chance to speak with Michael recently. He's been on the Podblast before, so it's exciting to get him back. We'll take a look at the Nuclear Blast schedule as usual, some vinyl releases, pre-orders, and some bundles available at the NuclearBlastUSA.com store. I want to thank Vince Edwards from Metal Blade Records for some tech advice recently. Vince produces and hosts the Metal Blade podcast, as well as doing some other stuff for the label. Thank you, Vince. And of course, thanks to the Nuclear Blast USA staff for letting me talk to you about and play some heavy metal. And with that, our first track comes from Burning Witches. They've got a new record, Witch of the North, coming May 28th. Now, we had vocalist Laura Guldemond on the Podblast a few episodes ago when they released their last record, and the band has certainly kept up the energy and catchy songwriting on this new album, the band's 4th overall. So again, out May 28th, here's some brand new Burning Witches, the Witch of the North, here on the Nuclear Podblast.
This is the Nuclear Podblast, the official podcast for Nuclear Blast Records.
That song is called Loss. It's the title track from the latest Devil Sold His Soul album. Came out April 9th. Devil Sold His Soul from London begin a new chapter with their Nuclear Blast debut. And this is the first album with the dual vocal attack of Ed Gibbs and Paul Green. Devil Sold His Soul burst onto the UK underground metal and hardcore scene in 2004 and have built a strong reputation for their captivating live shows over the last 16 years. Said Kerrang! Magazine after seeing the band once, quote, "Only the sky catching fire may give a visual to match the scale of the soundtrack. This was the kind of gig that changed lives," end quote. We mentioned the new Enforcer live record. This is actually their second live record, Live by Fire 2. Enforcer's 2009 Into the Night debut took the traditional and old-school thrash worlds by storm. 5 studio albums in all and many, many tours across the globe. The band gives us Live by Fire 2, again their second live release. This one offers an intense and passionate performance captured in front of a truly dedicated and wild audience in Mexico City from 2019. I first saw Enforcer play live in 2009 when they toured the US with Canada's Cauldron. I actually put both bands up for a couple of days as I was co-managing Cauldron at the time. The Enforcer guys, man, were so young but so hungry and already a relentless live force. They wreaked some havoc throughout the Midwest, that's for sure. And more than a decade later, again, the band has visited so many parts of the globe. As you'll hear with my interview with Olof, this was a one-off recording and a live take, as he says. So, before we speak with Olof, let's do something from the new Live by Fire 2 album. This is Searching for You, Enforcer, on the Nuclear Podblast.
Good evening, Mexico City! We are Enforcer from Sweden! And tonight, we are searching for you!
We are back with the Nuclear Podblast, and a big pleasure to have Olof Wickstrand from Enforcer live via Skype in Sweden, I assume. Are you home right now?
I am. Thank you very much, man.
Well, I appreciate you being here for the Nuclear Podblast. It's been a long time. We've known each other for many years, and it's good to see the band putting out another live record. Just came out last week, actually, Live by Fire 2. 17 songs spanning the entire career or the entire catalog. Lots of energy, crystal clear production. Tell us about the show, or how many shows in Mexico City that were recorded for the second live record.
Oh, this is just only one show. It's like one take on these songs.
That's it? Just set up and go?
Yeah. We had one show and one go. So one opportunity that we couldn't miss. No, it was pretty alright. I mean, it was just a show on a tour. It was like the second show on a 58-date North American tour.
Okay, so it was
we
part
had
of the
a show
North...
in Monterrey the night before to warm up a little and to just like practice a little bit to get into the routines. And then once we got to Mexico City, it was just set up and go. Mexico City is fucking great. It's like one of the best places in the world where you can play traditional metal, or all kinds of metal, I think.
I think you refer to the crowd as the heavy metal capital of the world.
Yeah, more or less. I think there's a handful of cities across the world who has like such warm attitude towards music, and Mexico City is one of them.
I remember booking the Enforcer and Cauldron tour in North America in the summer of 2009 when you guys were touring on your debut album, Into the Night. So not only have I known the band's music since your first album, but I've also seen your live performances develop as your music has over the years, from the tiny Midwest clubs to the large rooms and these big shows like in Mexico City. It just seems like the band has always been supernatural on stage.
I think so. It's been very natural for us. We've played music almost for the majority of our lives, so just doing this is feels pretty great. And I mean, since you saw us, we must have done over 1,000 shows. So I mean, it comes with practice also. Playing live is a big part of the band. I think you can like characterize the song so much more and put more character into the songs when you play them live, in contrast to when you would play them in the studio and you kind of write them at the same time. It's like you're so much focused to sing in pitch and to like play tight when you track them for a studio album. But this is something completely different.
Well, the crowd in Mexico City knew your early material, as you can hear them singing along to some of the songs. But the newer material, like 1,000 Years of Darkness, Die for the Devil, Zenith of the Black Sun, also seemed to go over very well with that crowd.
It seemed to be doing pretty great, even though it's just like a couple of months between the release of Zenith and the recording of this one. Yeah.
Had you been to Mexico City before? I assume at least once or twice.
Once before with the band. So this is the second show that we did there. First time was also like incredibly great. So we knew that like when we had this second show booked, we knew that we were in for something special again.
The latest studio album, Zenith, saw the band expanding on its sound and songwriting, branching out well beyond the new wave of British heavy metal and classic metal influences that you were well known for a number of years. The band seems to be evolving naturally. Have you begun writing for the next studio record?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this year it's been like, it's the only thing we've been able to do, or that I've been able to do more or less, since we had no shows or not. Or anything. Like, I guess like any musician would have spent this year wisely, I guess. Yeah, no, I think it's been a great year with all this pressure like coming off from touring and from all the logistics behind things, and everything that you have to like do in order to get to a show. I mean, with that pressure lifted, it's been like a incredibly smooth, nice year. It's been great for creativity. I think I wrote more songs in these 12 months than I did in the past 12 years. So we have a lot of things in the pipeline for sure.
Good, that's great to hear. Guitarist Jonathan Nordwall, who has his own solo on the new Live by Fire 2 album, has been in the band for a couple of years now. Has he contributed creatively, or is the songwriting still lie with you and the core members?
I think that the songwriting mostly lies with me, with some exceptions, I think. We're a band who are such focused on like, I think on songs, like, and not so much jamming. It's more about the songs, and I think that like most of our songs that we've ever recorded have been like almost 100% done as concept before we even bring the songs to the band. You know what I mean? So it's always one member who does it almost like completely until we put it together. So we've been very careful with the idea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting because that seems to be a lot more of an efficient process. In a jam situation, it can take so long for things to develop because
and
you're sharing
you don't
ideas.
really know where you're going when you start. You just know that you want to go somewhere. If I feel that when I'm working on something, like in my mind, for example, I like have such a clear vision of what I want, how I want it to sound. I mean, when I write a song, I do it mostly in my head, and then I'm like down to the details of like how the snare reverb should be like. So it's like a completely different, like full production already playing in my head, and which I need to just get out, you know. And I don't stop until that's exactly matching what I'm hearing in my head is what comes out of the speakers.
Well, what do you guys have anything lined up at all? Any shows towards the end of the year now that, things are loosely starting to have hope here and there? Is there anything that the band has set up? Or
we've had a European tour that that was gonna happen last spring, but that we pushed forward to this spring. But now it looks like we can't do this either. So we're like in a situation where we have to decide whether we want to push it another year or if we want to do something completely different. Looking into options like right now, actually. But I think this year also proved that you can be a musician and you can play music without like necessarily having to tour your ass off, like we've been doing. Instead, there are so many different ways in which you can like direct exposure to your band. So it's not like I don't think it's going to be necessary for bands to tour to that extent that, for example, we've been doing before. I hope we can like choose more wisely what type of tours, what type of shows we're going to do in the future, and not like overplay. So we'll see.
Olof, thanks so much for taking the time to join the Nuclear Podblast, and congratulations on your second live album, Live by Fire 2. Just came out last week, and as we're just talking, really hope to see you back over here and just on the road in general sooner than later.
I really can't wait to come back to North America. It's like that's been a scene that's been like exploding, I think, the past couple of years. When you saw us the first time in 2009, there wasn't any scene at all for traditional metal, but now that we came back a few years later, it's been like you could see that there was actually pretty great scene for traditional heavy metal, and you got like tons of new bands coming out from the States, and we pull great crowds even in smaller cities, which is absolutely great. So I think North America and United States and Canada has an incredibly vital heavy metal scene at the moment. So that's really great to see that.
And I truly think that you guys have done a lot to influence those younger bands as well. That's no joke at all. So you guys were a part of that.
I think so too, yeah. And I'm really happy that we kind of made it. It looked like pretty dark there for a while, but it's amazing to see how many bands are coming out now. And
Live by Fire 2 out now. Olof, cheers, man. Thank you so much again.
Dude, thanks so much for having me, and say hi to Michael Schenker.
You got it.
Come on now! Song called Scream of the Savage. I want to see you go fucking crazy to this one, okay? West you are walking through the darkness, with the misty morning light. Clear the smoke, rise from the ground, standing tall with your fists in the air.
get more Nuclear Blast metal at nuclearblastusa.com.
I stand on the shore, praying under the sky, telling me more to know, or should I believe? This is my home, where I will grow from now. Walking through a path and seeing all these old trees, knowing myself and learn where to believe. This is my home, where I will belong from now. Hear my home, I learn who I am. See my home, there is always more. Feel my soul, and I stay in here. Don't you ever fear the storm? Don't you ever cry no more. Climb up the stairs, seeing my past and my grace, feeling the same stones and fields and bleed memories. This is my home, where I will grow. Hear my home, I learn who I am. See my home, there is always more. Feel my soul, and I stay in here. Don't you ever fear the storm? Don't you ever cry no more, no more.
That song is Storm from amorphous guitarist, founder, and main songwriter Esa Holopainen. His new solo effort, Silver Lake, is out May 28th, but instead of calling it an actual solo album, he says, quote, "I'd rather call this a project which I'm leading, as it includes different musicians and vocalists that I've had great privilege to meet during these years. I've had this idea in the back of my head for years, and now that COVID-19 hit hard on us all, it was time to be creative and start this project." Again, Silver Lake from Esa Holopainen, out May 28th. Also out May 28th, the new album from ALLUVIAL called Sarcoma, and you'll hear a track from that release in just a while. We've had Michael Schenker on the Podblast before. Always amazing to speak with him. I've been interviewing bands for decades, and, some artists I still get a little anxious and maybe nervous about talking to, and Michael Schenker is always one of those interviews. For whatever reason, he's easily one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and possibly some of yours as well. So, always a pleasure to get to speak with him. The new Immortal record showcases the gargantuan vocals of Chilean hard rock prodigy Ronnie Romero, who of course has spent time in Rainbow and Ritchie Blackmore's latest incarnation of Rainbow recently. But the Immortal album is also backed by singers Rolf Scheepers of Primal Fear, someone I've worked with in the past. Also, the legendary Joe Lynn Turner lending his vocals on a couple tracks, which are actually some of my favorites from this record, as well as Schenker's brother-in-arms, producer Michael Voss, who also lends his vocals to the album. Again, and recorded and produced alongside Michael Schenker. Punchy, meticulous production, and I'm liking this Immortal record quite a bit. It's been out for a while, so it's had a chance to sink in. But again, we'll get a chance to talk to Michael in just a minute after we cue up here the first single, Drilled to Kill, featuring Rolf Scheepers on vocals. It's the latest MSG album here on the Nuclear Podblast.
Fire!
back with the Nuclear Podblast, the new Michael Schenker group album, Immortal, out January 29th. And once again, we have the pleasure of the one and only Michael Schenker joining us. Congratulations on, once again, a phenomenal release.
Thank you so much.
Immortal is a fitting title to the new album, with celebrating 50 years of creating music. And another great lineup, of course. You always find amazing talent. And this time around, we're featuring Ronnie Romero on vocals, with Ralph Scheepers as well, Jolyn Turner, and of course Michael Voss contributing as well. I'm curious about the moniker change. Why not another Michael Schenker Fest record? Was it due to the 50-year mark, or tell us about that?
Yeah, it is because of the 50 years anniversary, and it's Michael Schenker's. You know, it's like in 2019, I started to realize that the 50 years anniversary was coming up in 2020, and so I wanted to do that with guest musicians, friends, musicians, and you know, it was dragging on, and it is really hard if you plan something to get musicians involved, especially when they are living all over the world. And I'm recording in Germany, and at some point I realized that I can't release an album at 2020 50 years anniversary, because it just didn't look realistic anymore. So I gave up on the idea. Then my agent told me that, yeah, but Michael, you know, the Lonesome Crow album with the Scorpions came out in 72, and so I said, so I have 2 years to celebrate and get everything together. And so it's kind of, you know, the first note I put down when I was 15 years old on the Lonesome Crow record. And the first piece of music I wrote, which was In Search of the Peace of Mind, which I wrote all by myself, the music, in my mother's kitchen, and there was nobody there. Michael Voss, my co-producer, he actually sent me the original credits of the Lonesome Crow album, and it says, Michael Schenker lyrics, Olof Schenker lyrics. We had zero knowledge English. How could we have done any lyrics? And so it was a complete misinformation. You know, In Search of the Peace of Mind is really the start of me putting my first note in a recording studio. So that's for me when it actually started, and the first musical composition that I wrote was In Search of the Peace of Mind. And so that's how it automatically ended up. To finish the album, I decided to make that song very special. And the solo is so perfect, I would never change a note. Like I said, I did not know where it was coming from. The rest of the album, you can hear, I'm just developing. It happens sometimes that something very magical happens that comes from somewhere else and nobody knows where from, especially with me.
Well, speaking of, I mean, it's amazing. Then I think that's a perfect end of the record, In Search of the Peace of Mind. The lead-off track, the first single, Drilled to Kill. I've worked with Primal Fear over the years, promoting their records, and it's just great to have Ralph Scheepers on the lead-off track, have that great Halford-style wail.
Yeah, you know, it's like I said in the beginning, I planned to have guest musicians, fans and stuff, you know, like, but it didn't work out. So I decided to, my agent told me that, you know, the album was 72 and released, and so I had more time, and I felt like I better go the safe way and celebrate the 50 years anniversary of Michael Schenker, you know, with a compact band, you know. And to answer your question about Michael Schenker Fest is always available, but people can't afford it. It's so
Sure.
expensive, and you know, and so also that everything that I did from 1980 onwards, you know, you have Michael Schenker Group, MSG, you know, Michael Schenker Group, the first one, you know, it's Roger Glover producing, Jeff Beck's rhythm section. You know, it's good that actually over the past, because of so many lineups, that for the fans and for myself and everybody to really understand what happened when, and that's why I like those subtitles of Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock, Michael Schenker Fest, even Macaulay Schenker Group. It was a Michael Schenker Group, but I gave him the N so to keep the MSG. And I didn't care if it was my M or his M, but you know, that's how we did it. And so you can actually, by having those subtitles, as I call it, you know, like that people can refer to. For instance, Michael Schenker Fest is with all original singers plus current, you know, Dougie White from Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock. Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock is with Herman Rabel and Francis Buchholz from the Scorpions, and with Dougie White from Rainbow. And so, you know, it's good that kind of important to understand, because otherwise it just becomes a big mess if everything is Michael Schenker Group with no subtitles and so many different lineups, you know, which happened because, you know, I left, you know, I peaked with UFO, decided to leave. I was done with my development, or the first part of my development, and helped the Scorpions with the Love Drive album to open the doors for America for them, and that was it. Then I wanted to go my own way, you know. I did not want to. I did not have the desire to follow a bunch of people who were looking for something that I was not interested in, because I'm the kid in the sandbox, just recreational. I just love to play and not be under pressure. When I wrote Lights Out in 76 when I was 20, I ran away. I got scared because I thought now everybody wanted me to write another hit like that, you know, and I don't like, you know, expectations like that, and I wanted to be free. Now, so when I went for the first time to Michael Foss's studio, and I put down all my musical backing compositions, backing tracks, and it was time for Ronnie Romero to come over, and he lives in Bulgaria. He said, oh, sorry, I can't come. I would have to go on quarantine. It was incredible. I said, you know, like my partner, I said to her when I heard that Ronnie was not available to because the clock was ticking, and he was not able to do anything. And I asked her, she's a bass player and she has a very good taste. I don't listen to music for the last 50 years, so I don't know what's out there. You know, I didn't even know Ralph was out there. And so she said to me, Ralph Shippers. I said, okay, if you say so, I trust you. I said to Michael Foss, hey, Ralph Shippers, do you know him? Of course I do. A fantastic singer. Do you think he can help us out? The next day they were recording. I couldn't believe it. When I heard the voice, I was blown away. I never knew something like that existed. Unbelievable. And then got another song out of him, and he's a fan as well, you know, and so it just happened so easily. And because Michael Foss is really good, has really good connections and is a very good communicator and figures out, you know, and speaks to the people. And then the next funny thing that happened was that Brian Tichy, the drummer with Whitesnake and Ozzy, and one of the best, he actually played on the Michael Schenker's Temple of Rock, the first one before the Devil Knows You're Dead, and Unbelievable drums. And so he called up Michael Voss and said, I offer 6 songs, to play for Michael as a 50th, because I'm a fan and to make a contribution to the 50th anniversary. I said, you must be joking. That is unbelievable. So there was out of nowhere. And then he called back Michael Voss and said, a buddy of mine, Derek Therion,
they just kept coming.
He's also a fan, and he wants to make a contribution to Michael. And I said to Michael Voss, what are we going to do with a heavy-duty keyboard player like Derek? He's one of the best. What am I going to do with Derek? And Michael Voss said, well, maybe we can do a jam with him, A jam with a keyboard player? I've never done a jam with a keyboard player. I said, well, maybe it's the first time. You mean like John Lord and Richie Blackmore? He said, yeah, maybe, something like that. And so I said to him, you know what? You're right. Let's do this. That's why I call the virus sometimes like bittersweet. I mean, there's nothing sweet about the virus, but how I got guided into all of these unexpected appearances was just unbelievable, and so, Trail to Kill is in the face. I mean, it is a rocker. It is such a incredible, great song, that I asked, like Michael Voss actually, I asked Michael Voss, he asked, there was a different chorus there before, and he made up a new chorus. And because Michael Voss always writes B-plan, for lyrics and for melodies, just in case a singer can't think of anything, and he has got something. That's how we created Warrior. It became one of the best songs,
Right.
It was written, the music was written by myself and Michael Voss. I came back from the hotel, he said, Michael, look, this is what I did overnight. I went like, Michael, you must be joking. This is incredible. And he actually knew exactly who was supposed to sing what, and it turned out so fantastic.
If I could ask you real quick, I wanted to ask you specifically about the Joe Lynn Turner tracks, because he's such a hard rock vocal hero of 4 decades, Rainbow and Deep Purple most notably, of course. But his work on Don't Die on Me Now and Sangria Morte is phenomenal. And, you've always had that sort of play and discover mentality for yourself, so I know you've allowed that for your contributors over the years. So with Immortal, once you got all the vocal tracks back, what song or what singer surprised you the most on this album?
That is a tough question, because I'm a Joe Lynn Turner fan.
Yeah.
And, I love his voice, and, and so this is a tough question, The reason it's a tough question is because Ronnie Romero is such a great singer as well, and I mean, I'm just very blessed to have what do you call it, like a lineup of singers that are actually top.
You've always worked with such great singers over the years.
Yeah, but this time it all just happened by itself, and for some reason it turned out exactly the way how I planned it in the beginning and then gave up. It's so weird.
You mentioned early on in our conversation about a new live outlet. So can you tell us a little bit more about playing live in the future for the Michael Schenker Group?
Yeah, we put together the biggest show in Japan. Was supposed to be 2020 March, and we prepared for this. I mean, I prepared for this for a whole year, because it was a 5-hour program. It was an A&B set. It was with Simon Phillips on drums, Bodo Schöpf on drums. It was 2 nights at a 5,000 seater, which is a total of 10,000, which is the same amount of Budokan, and then 2 nights, each night 2,000 Osaka. And but it was a really, really big show with Michael Schenker Fest, with all the singers, and it had to be cancelled because somehow I was convinced by my partner. She's Japanese, and she said to me, Michael, if you don't cancel this show, Japan will never like you again. I think she was probably talking about the government. It looks like they worked so hard, agents and everybody, to make something happen. But the problem is that it can't be the Michael Schenker Fest because now I'm promoting the 50th anniversary. And so I'm back to creating a compact band to start, the possibility of playing live again. And so now it looks like we have and because it is October 21 when it will happen, we have 4 shows in England and we have 5 shows in Europe and then some Russian shows and also Hellfest in France and Grass Pop festivals, the biggest festivals in Europe, they had to postpone from 20 to 21. And so we are part of that, we are actually going to be playing there. And so we have a hope for the future. And now with the vaccine and all of this, it kind of looks realistic, a possibility, that October would not have to be cancelled again, 21.
Well, that's great to hear. And congratulations again, Michael. Immortal, the new Michael Schenker Group album out January 29th worldwide. You're celebrating 50 years of creating music. Congratulations on a stellar record. Great lineup you've delivered once again, and some amazing songs. I really think that this record is as strong as either the Michael Schenker Fest records, and it's just amazing to see you continue on like this. So thanks again for joining the Nuclear Podblast, and we look forward to the Michael Schenker Group in 2021.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
There is no return. Coming from the tip, the driving force awaits. Ain't got no wording out. Sail the ship and face the fear, don't take the break. The price you pay is worth the wait.
Man, that Ronnie Romero sure can wail. Sail the Darkness from the latest MSG record Immortal came out way back on January 29th. Such a pleasure to have Michael Schenker again on the Nuclear Podblast. Love listening to him speak. You also heard Drilled to Kill from the Immortal record featuring Rolf Scheepers of Primal Fear and Gamma Ray fame. It's Andrew, the Nuclear Podblast. Before we talk about some cool vinyl available at the NuclearBlastUSA.com shop, let's go over the June releases. Again, March, April, May were pretty light for Nuclear Blast, but June, wow. Go Ahead and Die, that collaboration featuring Max Cavalera, joining forces with his son, singer, guitar, and bass player Igor Amadeus Cavalera, as well as Zach Coleman on drums, to produce a sound that mixes elements of death and thrash metal with early Celtic Frost influences and a punk rock attitude. Engineered by Charles Elliott of Nuclear Blast and Abysmal Dawn fame, the Go Ahead and Die record is out June 11th, as is the new album from Interloper, progressive heavy metal band. Their debut full-length album Search Party, also coming out on June 11th, and you can check out the first single Drift now at the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel. June 18th brings us the self-titled Halloween record, and the first track off of that album, Skyfall, is now available for streaming. And again, at the Nuclear Blast YouTube channel, you can check out the video for that single. It's a storming 7-minute ride with Michael Kiske and Andy Darris on vocals. But don't forget Kai Hansen, and they all duel each other in a breathtaking manner and create a vocal broadband adventure. Again, the self-titled Halloween record out June 18th, as is, yes, the new Fear Factory record, Aggression Continuum. I actually just spoke with guitarist Dino Cazares a couple of weeks ago about the new record. I've had a chance to listen to it a few times. Let's just say you classic Fear Factory fans are not going to be disappointed. And rounding out the June release schedule, the new album from Light the Torch, featuring Howard Jones, of course, You Will Be the Death of Me. So again, after a few months of, some reissues and a light new release schedule, June is shaping up to be huge for Nuclear Blast. And I wanted to touch on a few of the cool vinyl releases over at the NuclearBlastUSA.com store. The new imported mail-order box set from EPICA is in stock now, includes an earbook, double picture LPs, and a necklace with an Ankh symbol. Now this is exclusive to mail order and limited to 1,500 copies worldwide, while supplies last. Now the regular limited Omega vinyl, those colors are in stock as well, including blue-green swirl and a beer bone swirl. Now that's my style. July 23rd, we'll see Paradise Lost Live at the Mill released to the world. That'll be imported from Germany. They have a black blue marble as well as a green splatter and an orange marble vinyl, each of them limited and some exclusive to Nuclear Blast mail order. Again, that's available June 23rd, as is the new Burning Witches double LP glow-in-the-dark vinyl, limited to 500 worldwide. Now that's the Witch of the North. Now that's also available in black, light blue, and blue clear splatter. And finally, the new Fear Factory vinyl will be available August 27th, Aggression Continuum, imported from Germany. It's a double LP, transparent red-black marble, limited to 500 copies worldwide. So again, just a few items available now, as well as pre-order at NuclearBlastUSA.com. My interview from a few months ago with vocalist Thomas Vikstrom from Therion will be coming up in just several minutes. But first, Nuclear Blast's Monty Connor has signed Atlanta's progressive metal force ALLUVIAL, and their long-awaited sophomore album Sarcoma comes out on May 28th. Guitarist Wes Rauch, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, is a super impressive player. He's got a unique sound in a world where it's, of course, hard to be unique. A brand new video was just released for the track of The Underlying, but here is the record's first single and video, Ulysses. This band is relentless, and this song is just crushing. So brand new stuff right here from ALLUVIAL. It's Ulysses from the Sarcoma record, out May 28th, and this is the Nuclear Podblast.
Thanks for checking out the Nuclear Podblast. Music to mangle your minds.
That track is Tuonela from the latest Therion record, Leviathan. Came out back on January 22nd, and it seems forever ago. My interview with vocalist Thomas Vikstrom, he's been in the band for about a decade now, coming up in just a minute. Now, the one and only time that I've gotten a chance to see Therion live was at the Wacken Festival in Germany in 2001. The band played with a symphony in front of about 50,000 people at dusk on the Saturday of the event. I remember it vividly as I had just met Christina and Andrea from Lacuna Coil, who had played maybe an hour and a half before that. And during the set, we had a cool conversation in the back of the crowd, watching them play with the symphony. Killer performance. Now, that show was just a few months before the Secret of the Runes record was released, and since then the band have released 7 more studio albums, including the latest Leviathan release, which again came out January 22nd. It was a pleasure speaking with Thomas. Enjoy the interview. Back with the Nuclear Podblast, we're joined by Thomas from Therion, having called via Skype. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time, Thomas, to speak to everybody. Congratulations on a brand new record, Leviathan. Just came out a few days back. You must be excited right now.
I really am. Like you said, it came out for 1 week ago, and we are very pleased with what we accomplished during this, hard times.
Hard times indeed. My first question, now you've been in Therion for about a dozen years now, so this album has to be quite a departure from the previous 3 albums that you've been a part of, as far as the approach to the record and the style of songs that were delivered.
Yeah, totally. For me, it feels so good to finally release a normal album again. I mean, nothing against what we did earlier, but the previous one was a rock opera, 3 CDs, 3 hours long. And the one before that was a French cover album. So me and Christopher said to each other, let's try to go back home now, And it's good to be home.
Yeah, that is maybe a little challenging for some fans going here to there to explore, what satisfies you guys as artists. But you've maintained this fan base along the way. So I wanted to ask, when and kind of how did it come about when you and when Chris settled on the hit single angle for the Leviathan album?
Well, it was after the tour we did with and all the festivals we did for Beloved Antichrist. We speak on and off, and it's time to do a new record soon, isn't it? Yeah, and we said that let's do now an album that goes back to what Therion is, So we try to write songs, and we look back to the albums in the Lemuria Sirius B era, And we said, let's not create the past, but let's take the core of that, the essence and spirit of those songs, and take them into 2021. So that was what we were aiming for, and I think we did pretty good.
Well, the diversity in the songs, ranging from the operatic ballad, Die Weller Desert, which we actually played on the last episode of the Podblast when that was brand new, to the more hard rock bangers like Eye of Algol and The Leaf on the Oak of Far. It's impressive, the variety that you've given the fans. Now, these 11 songs, did that make up the entire writing session for what started as Leviathan, or is there leftover material for, say, the next couple of Leviathan releases? Tell us about that.
We started to write for the album just before the pandemic started,
Okay.
Here in Spain, we had a total lockdown, like you have in war or in catastrophes, You could go out with the trash and you could go to the grocery store, and you had to have a receipt to prove that you have been there. Otherwise, you had a fee of I don't know how much.
Wow.
So there was not much more to do than to sit and write songs, So me and Christopher were writing, online. He's sitting in Malta and I'm sitting here in Spain. And the amount of terabytes we have been sending to each other must be some kind of a record, And we wrote a bunch of songs, and we have so many leftovers. I don't want to call them leftovers because it sounds like they are not good enough. But it's just because they didn't fit maybe exactly into this album, into this style,
Understood.
But we have songs for the next decades probably.
Well, it's not part of the new release bio that Nuclear Blast forwarded for the record, but yeah, I've seen online where there's already Leviathan 2, Leviathan 3 sort of spec'd out for the next couple of years. Is that correct? You want to release 2 and 3 in the next 2 years?
That is correct. We're planning to release the next one next year about the same time, and the third one in 2 years in the same time. And the next one is going to be a little more dark, a little more melancholic, so to speak. And the third one is going to be more progressive and a little folkish as well, you know. But you never know. I'm saying that now, but you know, during the process, things can change. I've learned that. But that's the goal.
I wanted to ask about the lyrical inspirations for, in a general sense, for the record. Again, because this is such a different release and sort of a different approach for the band on a musical scale and song scale, were you at all different as far as where you took your lyrical inspiration from, or where the band did?
Yeah, this would sound really fun, but when we have been writing the songs, me and Christopher, they have no titles, or they have very funny titles. You know, this is the gay Smurf, you know, and this is the prog bathtub. You know, they have the most strange names before we have the lyrics.
The working titles,
yeah. But then we don't write the lyrics ourselves, because I am not skilled enough to do lyrics for these themes. You know, you have to know a lot about it. So we have a guy called Per who writes all the lyrics for us, and he's a poet.
I wasn't aware of that. How long has that been happening for the band?
They all, I mean, maybe in the beginning, in the death metal era, I think Christopher wrote the lyrics himself.
Okay.
But ever since Therion, I think, they used
wow, as far back as 1996. I wasn't aware of that. Interesting. With that, I wanted to ask a couple of songs in particular. We talked about the ballad that's been out for a while now, but there's a little bit of everything on this record, and I enjoy the songs that have the male-female vocal trade-off, and I didn't see who the female vocal was for this record.
There are a few. First, you have Laurie Lewis from the United States. She's singing on the album. Soprano. Then you have Chiara Malvastiti, she's Italian. Then you have Rosalia Sirem, that comes from Spain here, who sings more of the rock parts, you know, Eye of Algol, for example.
Okay.
And then you have a girl from Israel called Noah Gruman, and a girl from Bosnia who's called Taida, and I cannot pronounce her last name, actually.
Five singers from 5 different countries.
Yeah, and we recorded this album in 8 different countries.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing because of the pandemic, you know. We were supposed to record in Malta, this small island, but since everything got closed, we had to solve it like this.
The gritty edge of Psalm of Retribution might be my favorite as far as the female vocal trade-off going back and forth. I think that really stands out.
Oh, that's Rosalia, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one that towards the end of the record, Grand Marquis of Hell, your vocals are super strong, a really powerful delivery. Tell us more about that one in particular. It's such a rocker towards the end of the record.
Thank you. Yeah, I can tell you about that. I have been working on solo material for a long time, and it just never happens because I don't have the time. But this was something I didn't wrote for Therion in the beginning. But I played it for Christopher, and he said, we could use this for Therion. I say, why not? Let's give it a shot and see what happens, you know. So that was it. Yeah, and I also ended up singing it myself. You know, sometimes I write a song and I have a male vocal in mind, you know. But then I send it to Christopher and he changed it to a girl, you know, because we hear different stuff. You get different impressions, you know.
Right. Interesting.
So, but this was kept pretty much as it was.
Great. Well, symphonic metal is nothing new, you know, over the last couple of decades, but being a part of obviously one of the forefathers of what the genre is all about, I would think there has to be a lot of pressure every time there's a new record that you take on as an artist. Did you feel any additional pressure this time, you and or Chris, because you were changing or giving the fans something a little bit different?
Well, we have always done things as we please, you know, and hope that people have the same taste, you know. But Therion has always been a bit different in that way, and Christopher as well. I remember we were on tour for a couple of years ago, and he looked up in the tour bus and looked at me and said, hey, Thomas, you know, we will record a French cover album. And I was like, is there a gas leak in the bus, or is he high on something? And I told him, but that's a commercial suicide. Do you get that, you know? And he was saying, I don't care, I want to do it. Okay, let's do it. I respect that side of him, you know, very much, because he does what he wants, and right now he wanted this. But of course it's a pressure. I mean, you want people to like what you do, absolutely. And fortunately, this time they seem to do that.
That's great that he's willing to take chances like that as well as the rest of you.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. Well, my only live Therion experience actually was at Wacken in 2001, obviously before your time in the band, but still the performance was so compelling. Background vocalist, a strings section. This was all preceding the release of The Secret of the Runes. And the band started like maybe 20 minutes before sunset, so it was a perfect time of the day to actually see them at such a huge festival. But it's hard to make any plans on any big scales, but what do you guys have planned over the next so many months as far as trying to deliver your new material to your fans in a live sense somehow?
Yeah, but for my personal thing is that I want to go on tour again. I cannot wait, I want to play. I even miss airports, because that's sort of what's most fun in this business is to play live. I never get tired of it. So the plan is, as fast as this bug dies or gets better or weaker, I should say, we will go out there, and I hope that will happen this fall. I'm a positive guy. That might sound a bit positive, but let's hope.
The brand new record we can enjoy until then, it's out now, Leviathan, and gosh, I already look forward to Leviathan 2 and 3, judging by our conversations that you have this much material left and ready to go.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, thanks again.
I was actually writing today before we spoke.
Really?
Some new stuff. Yeah, so it never ends.
Always creative. That's great. Well, Thomas Wickstrom, pleasure to talk to you for the first time and to be a part of the Nuclear Podblast. And we look forward to hearing, hopefully, about some live dates maybe later in the year.
Yeah, that would be great. Nice talking to you, man.
You as well. Cheers.
Cheers.
The Leviathan record from Therion, a little bit different release for those guys. Thank you to Thomas for the great interview. And as you heard, the band sounds like they have enough material already for Leviathan 2 and possibly 3. It's Andrew and the Nuclear Podblast. Appreciate you hanging out once again. We've got Fear Factory and Halloween lined up for the next Podblast, so look forward to that. I certainly do. We're going to leave you with a song from the latest EPICA album, Omega. Came out back in February, the band's 8th album overall, the first collection of all new material in 5 long years. This might be the Dutch symphonic metal titan's biggest, grandest, flashiest opus yet. Says guitarist Mark Janssen, "We wanted to write huge, catchy, and melodic songs that work well in a crowd environment without altogether obliterating the larger-than-life epic anthems." And they did just that. This is the Skeleton Key from the latest EPICA release, Omega, and thanks again for listening to the Nuclear Podblast.
We've all been dancing in the dark. We've all been drifting worlds apart. Can we find the light?
This is the Nuclear Podblast.